That morning I had only gone into the kitchen to make my coffee. I was not looking for anything. I was not suspicious of anything. I was just a 71-year-old woman in her housecoat at 6:30 in the morning, trying to get her day started. The envelope was on the counter. I assumed it was mine. My name was on the front. Well, my name and a forwarding notice, which I thought was odd. The return address was a property management company I had never heard of. I sat down at my kitchen table. I poured my coffee. I opened it. It was a bank statement for a rental property. The address at the top of the page was one I recognized immediately because it was the address of the house where I had raised my son, the house where he had taken his first steps, the house where I had buried my husband's ashes in the garden out back. And according to this statement, that house had been generating rental income for 22 months, $2,100 a month, every single month, deposited into an account that had nothing to do with me. I sat there for a very long time. The coffee went cold. I did not notice. I had signed that house over to my son, Daniel, 3 years before, willingly, happily, because that is what mothers do. We give everything we have and we trust that the people we love will do right by it. But that morning, sitting at my kitchen table in the house where I now paid rent to a property management company that my daughter had set up behind my back, something shifted in me. Not anger. Not yet. Something quieter and more permanent than anger. The decision that I was done. Before I take you into this story, I want to say something to whoever found this video today. If you are a woman who has ever given more than you received, if you have ever kept the peace at the cost of your own dignity, if you have ever told yourself it was probably nothing when something inside you said it was definitely something, this story is for you. If this channel has ever made you feel less alone, please take a second right now and hit that like button and subscribe. Every one of you who does that means another woman like Beverly gets to hear her story. And that matters more than I can tell you. Now, let me take you back to where this all started. My name is Beverly Holt. I am 71 years old. I live in a mid-sized town in Ohio, in a 2-bedroom house that I bought with my husband Gerald in 1987 for $82,000 and paid off by working 2 jobs for 15 years. Gerald was an electrician. I worked in hospital administration. We were not wealthy. We were not struggling. We were the kind of people who drove their cars until the wheels came off and saved their vacation days and put money away every month without fail because we had seen what happened when you did not. Seen what happened when you did not. Gerald died in 2014. Pancreatic cancer, 11 weeks from diagnosis to the end. If you have lost someone that fast, you know there is a kind of grief that does not announce itself. It just settles into your bones and lives there. You learn to carry it. We had one son, Daniel, born in 1983. He was our whole world. There is no other way to say it. Gerald used to joke that we had spoiled him by loving him too much. And I used to say that was not possible. And I still believe that. I just wish I had been more careful about the difference between loving someone and losing yourself in that love. Daniel grew up to be a good-looking young man, smart, funny, a little bit charming in that way that makes you forgive things you probably should not forgive. He worked in sales for a medical device company and did well. He called me every Sunday. He came home for holidays. For the first few years after Gerald died, he was everything I needed him to be. Then he met Courtney. Courtney came into Daniel's life in the spring of 2018. He brought her to meet me. That August, and I will be honest with you, I liked her at first. She was polished, put together. She worked in real estate and she had the kind of energy that fills a room. She asked me questions about my life and seemed to listen to the answers. But there was something, I could not name it at first. You know how sometimes you meet someone and your body understands something before your brain does. It was that feeling, like a small cold draft that you cannot find the source of, no matter how many windows you check. I told myself I was being the cliché, the protective mother who can't let go of her son. I had heard that story enough times to be ashamed of it. So I pushed the feeling down and I smiled and I welcomed her. They got engaged in November of 2018. Daniel called me to tell me, and he sounded so happy that I cried. Good tears. I meant them. The wedding was the following September. Small ceremony, 120 guests. I paid for the rehearsal dinner and the flowers. I did it gladly. I sat in the front row in a dress that Courtney had approved, and I watched my son get married, and I felt nothing but gratitude. The first sign was small. At the reception, Courtney introduced me to her family as Daniel's mother, Beverly. Just that. Like I was a distant acquaintance, not Mom, not Mrs. Holt, Just Beverly. I noticed it. I filed it away. I told myself I was being oversensitive. The second sign was the holidays. That first Christmas, as a married couple, Courtney suggested they spend Christmas Eve with her family and Christmas Day with me, which was fine, reasonable. But by the third year, Christmas Day had become Christmas afternoon, and then Christmas afternoon became a quick visit on the 26th if things worked out, and things never quite worked out. I kept telling myself Daniel was busy, that newlyweds needed their space. That is what mothers do. We make every excuse in the book for the people we raised. We would rather believe we are being unreasonable than believe our child is drifting away. Part 3. The Slow Erosion. In 2020, Daniel and Courtney bought a house about 40 minutes from me. A nice house, 4 bedrooms, good neighborhood. Courtney had handled all the real estate side of it herself, and she was clearly proud of it. That same year, Gerald's old house, my house, needed a new roof. It was going to cost $14,000 that I did not have liquid at the time. Daniel offered to pay for it. He said he wanted to help, that he wanted to make sure I was taken care of. I said no at first. I did not want to be a burden, but he insisted. He said, "Mom, this is what family does." And I believed him because he was my son, and I still believed in the version of Daniel I had raised. 6 months later, he brought up an idea. He said he had been thinking that the house I was in was sitting on rising property value, that if I signed it over to him, he could make sure it was properly maintained and protected as an asset. He would make sure I could stay there as long as I wanted. He showed me paperwork. Everything looked legitimate. Courtney sat across the table the whole time and did not say a word. I noticed that her quietness felt practiced, and that was the moment I should have trusted the draft, but I did not. I signed the house over to my son in February of 2021. He was listed as sole owner. The understanding, entirely verbal, entirely trusting, was that I would continue to live there as long as I wanted. No rent, no conditions, just his mother in his childhood home. For almost a year, nothing changed. Daniel called on Sundays. He came for my birthday. He sent flowers on Mother's Day. Everything felt fine. Then in the fall of 2021, Courtney got a promotion, a big one. She was now heading the residential real estate division of her company. She started talking about investment properties, passive income, portfolio building, and the Sunday calls from Daniel got shorter. Then every other Sunday. Then just texts. Then every other Sunday. Then just texts. I smiled and said it was fine. I told my friend Norma he was just busy with work. I told myself the same story so many times I almost believed it. I kept a good face on things. That is what we do. That is what we were raised to do. Part 4. The Betrayal. In January of 2022, a woman knocked on my door on a Tuesday afternoon. Young woman, mid-30, had a clipboard and a friendly smile, and she introduced herself as being from Westgate Property Partners. She said she was doing a routine inspection of the property. I told her I thought there must be some mistake. This was my home. There was no property management company involved. She looked at her clipboard, looked back at me, apologized for the confusion, said she would check with her office, and left. I called Daniel that afternoon. I left a message. He called back 2 days later and said it was nothing, some administrative thing Courtney had set up for tax purposes. He said he would sort it out. He did not sort it out. A month later, I noticed a change, a small one. The mailbox at the end of the driveway had a new label on it. Westgate Property Partners, Unit A, underneath my name, which was still there but fading. I took a photograph of that mailbox with my phone. I did not know then why I was doing it. I just knew I should. What I would learn later was that Courtney had registered my home as a rental property. 18 months earlier, she had been advertising it, not the whole house, the lower unit, which was technically a separate entrance that Gerald had built years ago that I used as a craft room. She had rented it out, and then when that tenant moved out, she had found another one, and another. $2,100 a month, deposited into an LLC she had set up in Daniel's name, without telling me, without asking me, without a single word. I was living in a rental property. I just did not know it yet. The bank statement arrived in February of 2023. It was addressed to me. I still don't know exactly why. Some administrative error in the forwarding address, but it found me. And it told me everything. 22 months, $46,200, rental income from my house. Not a penny of it ever mentioned to me, not a conversation, not a thank you, not even a lie that I might have caught, just silence. And money, going somewhere else. I sat at that table for a long time, and then I did something that surprised even me. I did not call Daniel. I did not call Courtney. I did not call anyone. I got up, I went to my bedroom. I pulled out the old accordion folder I keep in the closet, the one where I keep every document that has ever mattered. The deed from when Gerald and I bought the house, our mortgage documents, the paperwork from 2021 when I signed it over. I sat down on the edge of the bed and I read every single page. And that is when I found something that no one, not Daniel, not Courtney, not anyone, had thought to account for. When I had signed the house over to Daniel, I had done it through a local attorney, a woman named Patricia Marsh, who had handled Gerald's estate, and buried in the transfer document in language I had not fully understood at the time was a life estate clause. Gerald had insisted on it years before. I had forgotten about it entirely. But there it was. Legally, I retained the right to occupy that property for the remainder of my life. No one could rent it. No one could sell it. No one could restrict my use of it without my written consent, which I had never given. Courtney's entire operation was built on a legal foundation that did not exist. I put the folder on my lap. I folded my hands on top of it, and for the first time in years, I did not feel sad, or small, or invisible. I felt clear. I did not move fast. That is important. I want you to hear that. There is a thing that happens when someone hurts you deeply. A pull toward doing something immediately, confronting, demanding, making them see. I understand that pull. I felt it. But I have lived long enough to know that the people who move quickly in anger are the ones who give the other side the advantage. I moved slowly, carefully, and I moved alone. The first thing I did was call Patricia Marsh. She remembered me. She remembered the life estate clause. She said she would need to review everything but that if what I was describing was accurate, and she thought it was. I had significant legal standing. I met with Patricia 3 times over the following 6 weeks. I brought every document, the bank statement, the photograph of the mailbox, the original deed, the 2021 transfer paperwork, the property management company's name, everything I had. Patricia was thorough. She did not rush. She verified the life estate clause against county records. She looked into Westgate Property Partners. She found that it was a legitimate company, which meant they were operating in good faith without knowing about the legal problem. They were not my adversaries. They were just Courtney's unknowing instrument. She also found something else. The LLC that Courtney had set up in Daniel's name had some irregularities, income that should have been reported differently. Nothing that would send anyone to prison, but enough to be a problem, enough to matter. I sat in Patricia's office one afternoon, and I thought about the woman I had been 2 months before, the woman who made excuses, the woman who smiled and said, "Of course." I barely recognized her. Something had finished in me, quietly, without ceremony, like a light that simply stops flickering and goes dark. Part 7. What they did not know. Here is what my son and his wife did not know about me. They did not know that after Gerald died, I had spent 3 years learning things, because grief will do one of 2 things to a person. It will make you smaller, or it will make you wiser. I chose wiser. I took a financial literacy course at the community college. I met with a financial advisor twice a year. I read, I paid attention. I knew exactly what I had, what I was worth, and what my rights were. They did not know that I had a separate savings account that Courtney did not know existed, not hidden out of deception, just private, the way Gerald had always said a woman should have something that is only hers. I had followed that advice without fully understanding why, until now. They did not know that my neighbor Joanne, who walked her dog past my house every single morning, had noticed things. She had noticed the woman from Westgate. She had noticed the tenant who had briefly lived in the lower unit. She had taken note. Joanne was a retired school administrator with a very good memory and an absolute refusal to mind her own business. In this case, those qualities were a gift. And they did not know that my friend, Norma, the one I had told all of Daniel's excuses to for the past 2 years, had kept every text message I had ever sent her, including one from February of 2022, where I wrote that Daniel had said that property management company was an administrative thing and that he would sort it out. evidence that he had known, evidence of what he had said. In writing, I had not planned any of this. I want to be honest about that. I had not been scheming. I had just been living, paying attention, trusting the people around me, and those ordinary things turned out to be everything. Part 8. When it unraveled, Patricia sent the first letter in late April. It went to Daniel directly, not Courtney. Patricia had advised that approach deliberately. The letter outlined the life estate clause. It documented the rental income. It requested an immediate accounting of all funds received. It also requested that Westgate property partners be notified of the legal situation and that all rental activity cease. Daniel called me that same evening. I let it go to voicemail. He called 3 more times. I let those go too. He texted, "Mom, please call me. We need to talk. Mom, I think there has been a misunderstanding. Mom, I need you to understand this was not what it looks like." I did not respond for 4 days. On the 5th day, I called him back. I kept my voice completely level. I said, "Daniel, I know everything. I have the bank statement. I have the property management contract. I have the LLC documentation. My attorney has reviewed the life estate clause and our position is clear. I am not calling to fight. I am calling to tell you that I have already made my decisions and I wanted you to hear it from me directly." He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Mom, Courtney handled all of this. I didn't know the extent of it." I said, "Daniel, your name is on the LLC. Your signature is on the property management authorization. I love you, but that is not going to be enough this time." I heard him exhale, a long, slow sound, like something deflating. What happened next I had not anticipated, and it changed everything about how the story ended. He said, "Mom, I need to tell you something. I need to tell you something that I should have told you a long time ago." And he began to talk, really talk, for the first time in years. He told me that Courtney had presented the whole thing to him as a good idea, a way to generate passive income from a property that was sitting there. He said she had told him I had agreed to it, that I had suggested it. He said he had not looked closely at the details, because Courtney handled all the financial side of things and he had trusted her. I want to be careful here, because I am not a naive woman. I know that a husband can tell himself he did not know things when in fact he just chose not to look. Daniel may have known more than he admitted that evening. I suspect he did, but I also heard something real in his voice that night, something that had not been there in a long time, something that sounded like a man coming back to himself. That does not excuse what happened. Nothing excuses it, but it matters for what came next. Part 9. What changed? The legal resolution took 4 months. Courtney fought it initially through her own attorney, but the life estate clause was unambiguous. The county records confirmed it, and when Patricia presented the full documentation, including Joanne's witness statement and Norma's text messages, the case for disputing it collapsed. The settlement required the return of all rental income collected, $46,200, returned to me, not as a lump sum that would have created its own tax complexity, but structured properly over 18 months. Patricia made sure of that. Westgate Property Partners was notified of the legal situation. They were professional about it. They had no knowledge of the life estate clause and bore no liability. The rental arrangement was terminated. The lower unit was returned to me. I had my craft room back. That sounds small. It was not small. Daniel and Courtney are still married. I want to say that plainly because this is not a story that ends with a villain defeated and a family magically healed. Real life does not work like that. Courtney and I do not have a relationship. I do not expect to have one. There is nothing there to rebuild because there was never much to begin with. Daniel and I, that is more complicated. He has called every Sunday since that April evening, without fail. He drove up in May to fix a screen door that had been broken since the fall. He sat in my kitchen and drank coffee and was quiet in the way that Gerald used to be quiet, just present, just there. We have not talked about it much since the settlement. Some things do not need more words. Some damage gets repaired not through conversation but through showing up. I am watching to see if the showing up continues. So far it has. I have thought a lot about forgiveness this past year. Not the kind where you pretend nothing happened. The other kind. The kind where you put something down not for their sake but for yours, because carrying it is heavier than it looks. And you are not as young as you used to be, and there are better things to carry. I want to tell you what I took away from all of this. Not because I think I have wisdom that anyone else lacks. I am just a woman who went through something and came out the other side with a few things. One wish I had known earlier. The first thing is this: the paperwork matters. always. I do not care how much you trust someone. I do not care how much you love them. Get everything in writing. Understand what you are signing. If you do not understand it, find someone who does before you put your name on it. Gerald's insistence on that life estate clause, something I had not thought about in years, was the thing that saved me. He was looking out for me from beyond the grave. But you should not have to rely on that. You should read every word yourself. The second thing is that quiet does not mean weak. I spent a long time feeling invisible, feeling like my silence was the same as my defeat. It was not. Quiet is strategy. Quiet is observation. Quiet is gathering yourself before you move. The women who shout early give away everything. The women who wait and watch and document, those are the ones who prevail. The third thing is about love. I love my son. I have never stopped. I do not think I am capable of stopping, but I have learned that love is not the same as trust, and trust is not the same as surrender. You can love someone with everything you have and still require that they behave with integrity. You can love someone and still hold them accountable. Those things are not in conflict. I spent too long believing they were. And the last thing, and this one I want you to really hear, is that it is never too late to begin again. I am 71 years old. I have a craft room back. I have $46,000 being returned to me. I have a neighbor named Joanne who walks her dog past my window every morning and gives me a little wave. I have a friend named Norma who kept my text messages without knowing why, but somehow knowing she should. I have Sunday phone calls that I believe in a little more each week. I have enough, more than enough. And for the first time in a long time, I know it. She got up, she went to her closet, she pulled out the accordion folder, she read the documents, she found the clause, and then she went to bed and slept well for the first time in 2 years. I think about that morning sometimes, the kitchen, the cold coffee, the bank statement on the table. I think about the woman I was in that moment, sitting in her housecoat, in the house she had built with her husband, holding proof of what had been done to her. And I think about what she chose to do with it. She did not scream. She did not collapse. She did not call her son in rage or post anything or tell anyone what she knew before she was ready. She got up. She went to her closet. She pulled out the accordion folder. She read the documents. She found the clause. And then she went to bed and slept well for the first time in 2 years, because she knew something now. And knowledge, real knowledge, the documented, provable kind, is the calmest feeling in the world. If you are sitting somewhere tonight feeling like you have given more than you received, if you are feeling small or invisible or like the people who were supposed to love, you have looked right past you. I want you to know that you are not finished. Your story is not finished. The chapter that changes everything has not been written yet. Mine was written at 6:30 in the morning over a cold cup of coffee. Yours is coming too. My name is Beverly Holt. Thank you for listening.